For millions of animation fans, the Shrek franchise is undoubtedly the funniest of all. And because it's so famous, it was only a matter of time before it became an icon and got referenced in various shows, movies, and cartoons. For example, this is exactly what happens in the 2022 movie Chip and Dale: Rescue Rangers. When we see the conveyor belt scene, it becomes crystal clear that the soap bottles are none other than the two best friends, Shrek and Donkey. Seriously, it's rare to see Disney referencing competitors. This was definitely shocking. If even Mickey's house is showing Dreamworks as Shrek, it's because the Green Ogre holds a lot of weight in the animation world. That's why we've put together 20 amazing Shrek references that we're going to show you today. Come with us now to have your mind blown. If Shrek is legendary, Fiona is definitely right up there with him. Even Karen, the computer married to the villain Plankton in SpongeBob SquarePants, is a fan of the character. This is clear in an episode where we see the underwater AI dressed as the fairy godmother and singing so high-pitched that she makes an oyster explode. This is exactly what Fiona does in the first movie, singing so loud that she makes a bird explode. And also in Shrek Forever After, where she does the same thing, but this time with the villain's evil pet goose, in one of the 760-plus episodes of The Simpsons, titled The Good, the Sad, sitting and talking with Bart, just as he is about to fill a popcorn bucket with soda at his convenience store. And when Apu flips over the slushy-filled bucket, we can clearly see an image of Shrek skiing on dollar bills, implying that Dreamworks made a ton of money off the Green Ogre franchise. Of course, all of this was before Disney bought Fox and became the owner of The Simpsons. Speaking of another classic animation, let's talk about The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle, released in 2014. In the adventure film featuring the two friends, we see Bullwinkle fall in love with a robotic moose who is actually controlled by the spy Boris. And during the festival scene, he manages to get a Shrek doll and gives it to her as a present, despite the fact that she's been trying to take him down over and over again. Mad is another animated show that loves to mock famous characters in movies, and in one episode we crime series Law & Order, only this time it's called Law & Ogre. In this detective-style investigation, one of the fairy tale bears ends up, well, passing away if you catch my drift. And at that moment, the investigators discover that since it's a fairy tale character, the case falls under Shrek's jurisdiction, and he steps in as a tough, no-nonsense cop. Even Fiona and Puss in Boots show up in the story. In the end, we find out that Shrek didn't catch the real culprit, who was actually Yogi Bear. The series BoJack Horseman is geared toward adults and often appears in our lists of references. And the same goes for Shrek. In one of the costume parties thrown by the X-Actor horse, we can clearly see a guy dressed up as Shrek, and honestly, the costume suits him perfectly. Stepping away from animation for a moment, let's talk about the 2022 Netflix comedy miniseries, The Pentaverate. In one of the episodes, just as the protagonist is about to be attacked by the Ogre of Dubrovnik, he is saved by another ogre, none other than Shrek himself, or well, a guy dressed as Shrek who headbutts the other ogre. What makes this even more interesting is that the scene is a tribute to the series' lead actor, Mike Myers, who has been the official voice of Shrek ever since the first movie was released back in 2001. And if you're a Shrek fan just like us, comment Oger below so we can get to know you. In 2008, the parody movie Meet the Spartans was released, spoofing the blockbuster hit 300. One scene in particular is absolutely hilarious. It's when the film explains how children who didn't fit the mold were discarded. At that moment, we see that the baby being held by a character looks just like a baby version of Shrek, complete with green slime spewing from his mouth. There's no denying that he strongly resembles Shrek and Fiona's little ogre babies, except for the slime, of course.
You my mama? 'Cause I'm ready to suckle a teat.
In another hilarious episode of Mad, we see Shrek and Fiona appearing in a spoof of Wife Swap alongside Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, who were still married at the time. Fiona and Brad live together in the same house, while Shrek and Angelina Jolie share a home. Without a doubt, Fiona was completely starstruck meeting Brad Pitt. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for Shrek when he sees Angelina Jolie. He can't even remember her name. We can't really blame him. After all, internet service in the swamp probably isn't the best. In another episode of Springfield's famous Yellow Family, we see Homer sketching one of his sisters-in-law, whom he despises with all his heart. And just to drive that point home, one of his rough drafts features a version of Marge's sister fused with Shrek, complete with the ogre's signature ears. For a few years, Aardman Animations, the creators of Chicken Run, partnered with Dreamworks, the studio behind Shrek. And in Flushed Away, the last film from that partnership, released in 2006, we see Roddy, the protagonist, searching for a DVD to watch after his owners leave the house. If you're not familiar with DVDs, they were how people used to watch movies before Netflix. But getting back to the reference, among the DVDs, we can spot copies of both Shrek and Shrek 2, which were the only two films in the franchise released at the time. Another hit comedy franchise from Dreamworks is Kung Fu Panda, and if those two worlds are great separately, imagine them together. Thinking along those lines, one of the promo clips for Kung Fu Panda 3 featured an epic crossover where Po briefly transforms into Donkey and starts kicking a punching bag before turning back to normal after eating a dumpling. The funniest part? Right after that, the same thing happens to Monkey, except he transforms into Shrek and looks just as lazy as the Green Ogre from far, far away.
Monkey! You get down from there.
Pipe down. I don't take orders from wee rodents.
In another movie from Disney's biggest rival, we can find a subtle and well-hidden reference to the ogre from far, far away. If you look closely, you'll notice that the military uniform of the general in charge of dealing with Earth's monsters has a rather peculiar insignia because it features Shrek's face. Now tell us, did you ever notice this detail while watching the movie? I highly doubt it. In the Netflix animated show Close Enough, which is also aimed at adults and created by the same minds behind regular show, we see Josh, one of the main characters, visiting a wax figure exhibition of famous movie personalities with his friend. And if you look closely in the background, among this exclusive lineup, you'll spot none other than the big princess rescuing hero himself, Shrek. And if you've made it this far into the video, that means you're enjoying it. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. It's free and helps us out a lot. Returning once again to The Simpsons, we find an episode where Lisa is looking for a Father's Day gift for Homer. She picks up a hanger with a t-shirt and says this was the best thing she could find for her dad. And printed on the front of the white shirt is none other than Shrek, wearing a dress shirt, tie, and vest. To top it off, the shirt even has a message that reads, "Have a Shrek-tastic Father's Day." It's pretty clear the Simpsons love poking fun at Dreamworks movies.
I'm afraid the best thing I could find is this. Ay, caramba.
If you're a fan of action and thriller movies, you've probably watched I Am Legend starring Will Smith. Near the end of the movie, we see that the young boy who is with the woman who saves Will from certain death is at home watching Shrek. This is definitely a really cool reference. Another live-action movie that sneaks in a fun Shrek reference is Tower Heist, 2011, starring Ben Stiller. In one of the scenes, we see a parade taking place, and the giant balloon being carried down the street is none other than a Shrek balloon. This is actually a tribute to Eddie Murphy, who is part of the movie's cast and also the official voice actor of Donkey in the Shrek franchise. Robot Chicken is an adult animated series made entirely with action figures, with the sole purpose of satirizing major blockbuster movies. And of course, Shrek isn't spared. In one of the comedy sketches, we see an alternate version of Shrek, where he and Fiona seem to be happily together, until Shrek starts giving a dramatic speech about how miserable his life has been, only to realize that Fiona is way more interested in the wedding snacks and desserts than in her husband's tragic life story.
Have you tried these mini cheeseburgers? Great!
In another episode of Mad, the show does a parody of Madagascar, renaming it Outagaskar, a play on words meaning out of gas or boring. And in one of the circus train cars, we spot three super famous animated characters, Shrek and Donkey, making their cameo appearance, and also Buzz Lightyear from Disney. Seriously, these guys make fun of everyone. And to wrap up our list, let's check out one last subtle reference to Shrek in The Simpsons. In this scene, Homer arrives home romantically carrying Marge in his arms, kissing her passionately. And if you take a close look at the house, you'll notice it's full of toys scattered all over the floor. And if you look even closer, one of those toys is a Shrek figure, complete with the exact outfit details from the animated ogre himself. Homer even steps on the toy, which then speaks, "I don't care." Now that is something totally in character for Shrek. These were 20 awesome Shrek references we picked out for you today. But don't leave just yet. Stick around and check out these two videos popping up on your screen right now.